Hi, everyone. I'm Julia Heiders, Executive Editor with Modern Machine Shop, and I'm your moderator for today's webinar, which is sponsored by MachineMetrics. Your shop floor generates data every second. For most manufacturers, that data never becomes a decision. Tool changes get missed. Schedules drift. Supervisors spend the first hour of every shift reconstructing the last one. The gap between what your machines know and what your team can act on is the execution gap. And it is costing shops in downtime, missed deliveries, and the hours their best people spend chasing information instead of running production. MachineMetrics is an AI-powered manufacturing operations platform built for discrete manufacturers. By connecting directly to machines and integrating with ERP, MachineMetrics gives every role across an operation a live picture of production reality so teams can stop reacting and start executing. In this session, we'll look at what closing the execution gap actually looks like inside a precision machining shop, including how automated workflows, Max AI, and real-time OEE metrics can build a shop floor that runs on data instead of instinct. Our presenters are Josh Fish, Product Manager at MachineMetrics, and Thomas Deslongchamps, Director of Training and Continuous Improvement at Pindel Global Precision. You can submit questions at any time during the presentation using the Q&A tab at the top right of your screen, and we'll answer as many as we can at the end. There are also some poll questions throughout this webinar, so keep an eye out for those. And finally, I wanted to let everyone know that this webinar is being recorded, and attendees will receive a link to the recording via email after the webinar is over. So with all of that, let's get the presentation started.
Thanks, Julia. Again, my name is Josh Fish. I'm a product manager here at MachineMetrics. I'm co-hosted by Thomas Deslongchamps of Pindel. Today, we're going to be really covering a few different things, just kind of the current state of MachineMetrics, giving you an overview. We're going to define what the execution gap is. We'll meet more and learn more about Pindel. How they closed a couple of gaps in their execution, and see a little bit about what's next and what you can do. So let's talk about the current state of manufacturing in general. Let's talk about the execution gap specifically. So today, there's a gap between what happens in your ERP system, right? You have that ideal path that you want to go down, what you want to make, what it should cost, and how you want to do it. But then reality happens. You get it to the shop floor, machines break down, setups run long, materials arrive late. And what happens on the shop floor is dynamic. And what we call that at MachineMetrics is called the execution gap. But the execution gap isn't just one big gap. It's not a giant chasm that is between your ERP and your shop floor. It's dozens of small little gaps that happen every day, every hour, every shift. Things like tool changes getting missed, schedules that drift from what you planned on yesterday to what is actually happening on the shop floor today. First piece inspections, first article inspections that are taking too long. You have zero visibility into them, holding up production, or diagnosing an actual downtime or a problem out on the shop floor where you don't know where to even start. This brings us to our first poll. Let's ask the crowd here. Which of these execution gaps do you think? I'm sure that visibility is limited there. Which one do you think is actually costing your shop the most right now? Give everyone a couple of seconds here to answer. I lost it.
Poll is now closed.
Awesome, thank you. So let's keep moving here. So for those of you that don't know what MachineMetrics is an AI-powered manufacturing operation platform. And what does that actually mean? That means that we really have built this AI-powered platform for discrete manufacturers that we include in core features like intelligent MES, work order management, downtime management, OEE and production analytics. We connect to ERPs and directly to machines and bring the shop floor together in one singular place, right? We connect to a host of machines, whether it's a robot, laser, a CNC machine, Mazaks, Okumas, but we also connect to ERPs, JobBoss Squared, Epicor Kinetic, Infor Visual. We bring that contextual layer on top of the machine layer to really understand exactly what's happening on the shop floor, and then bring that together to execute on your work orders and other work that you have. We're a single platform that allows you to actually be AI-driven and make AI-driven decisions. So from connecting every machine to executing on your ERP work, analyzing what has actually happened versus what was planned to happen, and even building on top of our platform, all with an intelligent layer of AI. So what does this look like in the real world? So let's talk to Thomas of Pindel about what that actually looks like. I'll bring my co-host in here to kind of give a little background into what Pindel is, what they do, what he does at Pindel. Thomas.
Yeah. Hey, Josh. Good to see you again.
Good to see you.
So we're Pindel Global Precision. We're a contract manufacturer out of New Berlin, Wisconsin, about 20 minutes west of Milwaukee. We specialize in complex turn parts, about 3 inches in diameter and below, at medium to high volume. I've been with the company for about 2 years as the director of training and continuous improvement. And I've been working with MachineMetrics since pretty much day one. Josh, when was it that we met at IMTS? I think like a month or so after I started.
Yeah, it was literally at IMTS. We ran into you. You guys had been a customer for over 5 years, and we were happy to get you into the fold of all the new things that we were working on. It was a really good conversation that we had, and I think it got you excited for what you were actually stepping into at Pindel.
Totally, yeah, because I was part of the mandate from our CEO to me was to be kind of the champion of MachineMetrics. So as you said, we have been customers for over 5 years, but hadn't really had anyone responsible for driving our usage of the platform. And so when I came on board, that was part of the mandate was get us back to baseline, make sure we have tablets at all the machines, make sure we understand how to use it and what it's for. So I've been doing that for a couple of years, and my relationship with MachineMetrics, the company's relationship with MachineMetrics has only grown.
For sure. So we were talking before this webinar, and we were really just kind of vibing off of what we wanted to discuss about closing that execution gap. And one thing that you said was that this is the flashlight that we use to shine light on our operations and understand where our opportunities to be more profitable are. I think that really narrows down what MachineMetrics helps shop floors do. And we'll get into a lot more of it, in the upcoming slides here. But just could you just expand on what you mean, like how MachineMetrics is that flashlight?
Yeah, that's a golden quote, by the way. You guys gotta take that note.
Oh, we're running with it, don't you worry.
Very good. Yeah, I mean, for me, having machines. So when I came on board, like I said, we had gone through periods of use and disuse with MachineMetrics, and so coming on board, it was like, all right, we got to get this thing up and running. It was new tablets on the shop floor, retraining the team to understand how to use it, and then really reframing the platform to be less of like, you know, the Orwellian big brother looking over your shoulder and pointing fingers and, you know, being a tool to blame people when things go wrong, and rather a tool for us to collectively and collaboratively, you know, understand where our opportunities are. And I think the analogy of the flashlight is you know, appropriate, because getting MachineMetrics set up really enabled us to understand, using data, what the opportunities were, and it enabled us to say, okay, I think there's something going on here. Like, what actually is going on, and let's get some numbers behind it, so that we can implement improvement opportunities, you know, improvement initiatives, and then gauge our progress.
Yeah, that kind of brings us to that next step of like, where were the gaps? Where were those execution gaps that you started to find based on the data, based on what you were doing in the MachineMetrics product? So we're going to talk about a few of them here. One of them is FAI, right? First article inspection. It holds up your production time on machines. We'll talk about how cycle time going dark. You don't know exactly if you're making money or not. As well as diagnosing machine issues taking hours. So those three are really what we're gonna talk about how, you know, MachineMetrics helped you close these gaps and really effectively take on, you know, and create action around these. So let's start with the first, right? The first problem that you had: setup was done, machine's ready, but QC nowhere to be found. Or at least nowhere to actually find someone to actually do that first piece inspection. You know, do you want to talk a little bit about your flow, at least what it was before MachineMetrics?
Yeah, definitely. So to my point about returning to the flashlight analogy, you know, before you're kind of feeling around in the dark, trying to get a gut sense of what's going on, and I would talk to our team, our machinists, and, you know, a couple of guys would flag me down and be like, "Hey man, we've got machines sitting for a while, and, you know, there's a ton of friction. I picked up on a ton of friction. Like, the production team's all ticked off because they can't find the quality team. And they're like, what the heck is the quality team doing? Like, don't they know that production is the most important thing?" And then the production and the quality team's like, you know, what the heck is with the production team? They don't know how to communicate. Like, you know, tell me when the machine's ready, and I'll come and do it. And
The old finger pointing game.
Yeah. Just this back and forth that was not productive, and was costing us real production time, and for no reason. It's like, these machines sitting, it's ready, it just needs the quality sign off. And so we started to gather data, and what we did was, in MachineMetrics, you have the different activities in which a machine can be at a given point. And the kind of baseline is setup and production, right? And so what we did is we added an activity, and it's like, okay, the third activity is setup, and then first article inspection, and then production. And we had the setup machinists switch that activity. Once it leaves setup, it goes into first article inspection. And within MachineMetrics, we set up an automation to push a notification to the quality team, so that wherever they were, whether that was receiving inspection, or, you know, calibrating a gauge somewhere, or, you know, whatever, they would get a notification saying, you know, this specific machine is ready to get the first article inspection, and it, you know, with the implication data, and it's sitting until somebody jumps on that. And so we kind of quickly got a baseline of how long does it take from first article inspection to production, and then we were able to implement improvement initiatives to drive down that number, right? And so, I mean, in that case, it was pretty much as simple as, like, you know, walkie-talkies was the first thing. It's like, okay, you know, first article inspection request has been triggered at the, you know, BO 38. Quality team, all right, yeah, I'm do you want a receiving inspection? Can you take it? Yeah, I'll be there in 2 minutes. Great. So that communication we saw really drive down the response time. And we were able to capture that, and then, yeah, there you go. Yep. Yeah, like where we've got all of you can see, like, pretty brutal, couple hours plus of waiting. And then after we implemented this initiative, we saw a massive drop, that 50% drop in response time just right in that first month. That's indicative of just the amount of friction that was going on in the process and what good communication and automation can accomplish.
Yeah, for sure. And what was the overall sentiment after, the whole finger pointing, Mexican standoff between the quality team and the production team? Usually it's the engineering team and the production team that have those, but I know I've been in those quality ones too. So what was the overall sentiment like? Because I know that there was that finger pointing, there was that little animosity between the teams. What did that look like after, once this process kind of took place?
Yeah, I think it was, very well received, and a lot of that is due to the work we did in the beginning to sit the team down and explain what MachineMetrics is and how we want to use it. And we understood what it was before I got there because we've been using it, but taking the time to reframe and be like, hey guys, this is the tool that we want to use to make sure that we're all creating more value and in turn capturing more value. So that work we did up front was very helpful, and this was definitely another proof point for the team. And you and I were talking as we were prepping for this, and it is part of our process now, right? Like, that's the coolest thing. As someone in continuous improvement, like, one of the hardest things to do is to get these things to stick.
Yeah.
Like, oh, hey, we had a problem, we solved it, and then you kind of revert back to the way that things were done before. But what's very gratifying for me is that that's how we do first article inspections now. So received very well. MachineMetrics continues to ingrain itself into our company and our processes and make it more efficient. Yeah,
for sure. So we have another poll here. Let's take a quick poll and ask more about setup. When setup is done and the first article inspection is actually needed in your shop, how long does it typically take for production to get running again? Does it block it even? We hear there are shops that will maybe run at risk. We might have that as an answer. So I would love to hear what that looks like. It's like majority right now is about 1 to 2 hours.
Yeah, we didn't talk about this, Josh, when we were prepping, but we have, in developing this process, we were like, oh yeah, well, what if it fails the first article inspection? And so we have a workflow, like an automated workflow tab that we can select. The quality team can select, and they either move it to production or they move it back into setup. And that, if they move it back in, they select the failed the first article inspection. And that's been a helpful data point for us too. And the plan, something that I've been thinking about for a little bit, and the plan is to eventually kind of use those metrics to determine, to basically clear setup machinists to move immediately to production. Like, if you get enough setups under your belt where you're good and you pass, no problem. We'd like to use those metrics to just promote running at risk, and really but mitigating the risk. So cool.
Love it. So Pindel built it, and we built it for everyone. This was something that we had as a product manager. This is near and dear to me because I help make this a reality. We heard this feedback from a lot of customers where interoperation inspections, especially first articles, are happening all the time. They're part of executing on a specific operation at a machine. They're blocking and causing downtimes on machines. This is a right up MachineMetrics, alley for us to close that gap and make sure that, things stay running on machines, right? So we actually built it. Pindel built their kind of custom workflow using activities and the machinist driving the state where it reports to the quality team via notifications. And now we built a native first article inspection. So your operator can actually send to inspection. Inspectors have their own application that they can actually start and approve or reject. It's communicated across the shop floor at the operator level. They'll see when their job is actually in inspection or still waiting for inspection. Over on your dashboards, you'll see on your live dashboards right now, you'll see when a job is or one of the machines is blocked by waiting for inspection or is in inspection, or even how long it's been waiting to actually start back up. And all those data points are taken and the time frames are taken, and we can use that in our reporting to actually show you how long are these machines actually waiting for inspection, how long are inspections for specific parts taking, how long is the machine actually sitting after an approval happens. These are all data points that you'll be able to have and utilize now with the MES flows that we'll talk about in a little bit. But that is the Pindel. You guys were ahead of the curve. You transform the MachineMetrics system to work for your shop floor. We try to build our product very flexible, and you flexed it and created the process, and we wanted to add on top of that. So I'm excited we're going to talk about your next steps here, but that is one of the obvious pieces that you're going to be utilizing, I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
All right. So next we're going to talk about, we talked about the flashlight, but I really wanted to get to this one because I think it's such an inspiring story for where MachineMetrics is right now and where we're heading. And that is the flashlight that points itself. Right, using our AI Max AI to actually get shit done, right? So let's first talk about where is your opportunity? Like, what are you doing with Max right now? Like, what have you done with Max to find those opportunities? Do you want to talk a little bit about your conversations with Max? We have a little screenshot here of one of the conversations you had and what it was talking to you about. Let's talk about your where you found opportunities.
Yeah, for sure. First, on a macro level, to your point about flashlight pointing itself, I think we'll cover the macro and then give some specifics. What I've been thrilled about with Max AI is the fact that previously, right, MachineMetrics, amazing. It is the flashlight. But I had to know, the team had to know, I had to know, whoever's using it has to know where to point it. And it's okay, if I want to go look at utilization, then I dive in, I build, I make the report, and it's all very easy, but I'm really the one diving into the data and kind of navigating the data to figure out what I want to know. With Max AI, I can ask much, much broader questions, and I can paint with broader strokes and say something like in the example here, across all of our machines, how often are we meeting the cycle time standard versus falling short on a percentage basis? It's that's such a powerful question to be able to ask. And I remember when we were first beta testing Max AI, I was just kind of dwelling on the opportunities here, and it's MachineMetrics has this mountain of data that I don't have the bandwidth. No human has the bandwidth to go through or to analyze at the same time. But that's the power of LLMs. That's the power of AI. Is that it can have access to the exact same pool of data and kind of see it all at the same time. So yeah, I think this cycle time analysis here is a perfect example where we were able to go in and start identifying the jobs that were not performing to our standard. And then over the course of the past few months, we've been developing a systematic engineering review process where, previously you've got your engineers are somewhat involved in the coding process, and then they definitely are involved in getting machines set up. And then after that, it's like, especially in our environment where it's kind of medium mix, medium volume, like the engineers are constantly, making sure that machines stay up and stay up and stay up. But over the long term, what we really are trying to do is develop a structure for for engineers to go take another look, and like, where are the opportunities we have for improvement, and are we making the time to do that? And Max AI gives us the ability to analyze over the entire scope of work that we do the biggest opportunities, and then we direct our efforts there. And that has a number of impacts. One, just like dollars to the bottom line. Like, we're already doing that work. It's just like, the faster we can do it, the faster, like the less machine time that's consuming. And two, being able to attack the biggest opportunities first has been tremendous for us, because typically that's where we can take the biggest swings at things. I mean, we've had multiple instances already where we've cut cycle times by 50, 60, 70% by just taking a good hard look at it. So yeah, it's been incredibly powerful there.
Awesome. No, it's great to hear. Like, that downstream impact is really important, right? Like, you need to make sure that those machines are keeping up with the expected, and if they're not keeping up with the expected, why, right? And Max gives you that ability to dig in without having to hire an analyst, hire like someone that is there to actually do that job. I love to hear that. So another kind of gap that you were seeing, right? You noticed a gap one weekend, right? You saw something happen. Let's talk about kind of what happened that weekend that you were kind of that you came in when Monday morning and you had something going on.
Yeah. Yep. We sure did. Yeah. So we stood up a weekend shift a few months back, and if anyone's ever done that, that's a fun experience. That's a stressful experience in some ways, but great. And we had a high volume job. Got to stay up. The machines got to stay up, and one went down. And so I'm trying to kind of figure out what's going on, and only had so much information from the machinist. And and I've got to make sure we know how to solve this problem. But I'm not in maintenance. I don't know the machines in and out like those guys do. So what I did was I asked Max. I was like, okay, here's the scope. This machine went down at this time, right? In the timelines of MachineMetrics, you can identify exactly where it went down. Okay, so the machine went down at this time. Analyze the hour leading up to that instance, and then and the alarms that went off and everything like that. Like, look at the context, including all of the data, and give me your analysis of what you think happened. And the results come back, and it points immediately to, like, based on the alarms that went off, it pointed to a blown fuse, and it says, like, these are the reasons why I think it's this. These are like the first possibilities, and then these are the reasons why I think it was this. And that enabled us to, like, compile a report, point maintenance in the right direction, and say, our maintenance team's great, so they would have figured it out pretty quickly. But that's a great example of how we can direct resources much more efficiently and get machines back up and running in far less time than potentially would have taken.
Right. Right. And you really didn't have, I mean, as a weekend shift, right, you didn't really have the context that what exactly happened.
Right.
Like, you're coming in blind, you know that the machine was down, half the weekend due to alarms and issues, but like, that's all you really had. So go to Max, ask them what the hell happened, and give me an action plan going forward for this, is really, really awesome to hear, because obviously Max is attached to everything across the MachineMetrics platform: machine data, ERP information, our knowledge hub that you can put in your actual manuals for your machinery, alarm codes, all of that into one place where Max can reference all that context. And the LLM's context windows are pretty large. It's able to actually deduce what the hell's going on, which is really, really awesome. So that one intelligent layer, the whole business is aligned, right? The executive, where do we invest next? The shift, operator, the shift leadership, what is the focus for today? Really creating that kind of talk line with our AI layer helps bring all of these different roles on a shop floor from top to bottom. Like the continuous improvement person like yourself, where are we leaking money? It's one place where anyone can go, because we're the platform that sits in the middle of all of these different dimensions, whether it's maintenance, it's ERP information, it's and work order tracking, it's the machine data itself. We're all in the middle of all of that. So let's talk about what's next for Pindel. So right now we have an ERP integration that is nearing completion with ProShop. We're so close. We have it testing in production right now on a couple of machines. We're closing that gap, that execution gap, from actually what is happening on the ERP to what is happening on the shop floor. Right, and then we're going to be rolling out our full MES suite on your shop floor to utilize all of the AI features that we have, along with the MES features, scheduling, the work order tracking, job tracking, and FAI, right? And then we do have that carbide, right? That's what we call our platform for building on our platform. You actually recently joined us for our production lab, which is where we kind of had a sneak peek for some insider customers to come in and try out carbide for yourselves to build an application. Do you want to talk about the production lab a little bit, and just kind of give anyone that's kind of interested how carbide works, or how we built with our new AI layer?
100%. Yeah, that was a really good time. Yeah, so a few customers came out, visited with MachineMetrics, and your engineering team and everybody. So first of all, it was great to put faces to names and meet in person and all that. But what we did was basically brought the wish list out to Boston and got to build it. And I think this speaks to this direction you're going is very similar to a lot of companies today, where it's like AI represents the capability of building now. And for us, we came out and with the hope of building a couple different things. One, like an offset tracker. So we want to understand how often are we making offsets on a high volume job, in order to macro program those in. It's like we want to be able to gather the data around the capability of this process so that we can continue to automate it, right? And please report, I don't even think I told any of you this yet, but we just finished macro programming one offset on one feature, the most critical one on this high volume job. And now we're moving into a couple other features.
Awesome.
So, awesome. Really,
that's great to hear.
we built that over the course of like 2 days together.
Right.
And then the other one was kind of like a, what do you guys call it? A what's next? Is that what it is? Like a, yeah. I forget. We had kind of beta tested something a little bit or talked about it, but what we wanted to do was build something that basically told our machinists across multiple different machines what was coming up next. So you've got now your tool changes, your offsets, your coolant fills, your material loading, and what am I missing? No, maybe one other thing, right? The various tasks that are required to run production. And for when you think about profitability, it's like the more or the fewer machinists you can have running more machines, the more profitable it is, right? And so this tool we're working to implement right now, and it basically counts down to the next thing specified on a machine level basis. So it's like, hey, you've got a tool change and it's tool 3. So it's tool change on tool 3, and it's coming up on the the Doosan 2100-3, right? And so all you got to do is pop up, look at that. Okay, that's what I got to do next. Sounds good. So you grab tool 3, replace it, and then you're there waiting for when that machine goes down. So our ability to build those kinds of things without needing to have that software technical background is exciting. Starting to pay dividends already. Very exciting.
That's awesome. Great to hear. All right. So now let's talking to the rest of the crowd here, your shop, where you actually start. So you pick the gap that hurts the most, right? You guys at Pindel started with FAI. You thought about, you saw the issues, you saw the finger pointing, you saw that there was clearly not only just an execution gap, but a communication gap that, in that case too, right? So, find what gap actually costs you visible hours on the shop floor, estimate those weekly hours, pick one that you can actually measure, right? Measurability is key. Using the MachineMetrics data, you're able to actually compare what what the baseline was to what it is, today. Make sure that it's visible, right? You look at where the data actually happens, right? You guys put dashboards on the floor. You made sure that tablets were at every machine. You made sure that the entirety of the shop floor from carpet to concrete had visibility, right? The flashlight happens, not surveillance. It's not Big Brother. It's about having a tool that lets you find where your opportunities are, right? That's where adoption fails the most with these kind of digital transformations, is if operator thinks that it's there to watch them, hurt them, be that Big Brother. So making sure that you keep that the discussions with shop floor personnel, really about this being a tool for them to use. MachineMetrics is building a whole host of operator-centric tools, that are coming out in the next 6 months here. Whether that's FAI, like we were talking about before, shift handovers that are now digital and even automated, job docs, getting the setup documentation and job documentation to the operator at the time that they're actually starting their work. Really, it's about getting the execution to happen as seamless as possible with the tool. And then using AI to point it, right? Using AI to point that flashlight automatically for you, find out where those gaps are, find out where we can improve, what are the opportunities that we have to improve on, and let's get moving on it. Create an action list for you to actually make change. Pindel, you guys did it one little piece at a time, right? You're picking apart the opportunities and seeing the gains. So that's what the closing that execution gap looks like. Again, we're not trying to bring two ginormous pieces of the world together all at once. You're really just trying to build a bridge between them as best you can, one little step at a time. one piece at a time, one gap at a time, and you'll end up closing that gap very quickly. All right. Any questions?
Josh and Thomas, looks like we are starting to get some questions, but there's still time to submit one if you'd like. You can do that using the Q&A tab at the top right-hand corner of the screen. We'll do our best to get to it. If we don't get to it today, someone can follow up with you via email. All right, our first question. This is for Thomas. You mentioned that data was there at Pindel, but daily usage wasn't. What was the hardest part of getting your team to actually use it day to day?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it's like trust, right? I mean, it's kind of a hard thing to tell people because it's like, do your people trust you? Like, you kind of either have that or you don't, or you gotta, you know, if you don't, you really gotta work on that because that's foundational to so much of just running a good business. So the first few months, certainly of my time at Pindel, was very much a seek first to understand and then be understood vibe, where I'm going around asking questions, I'm going around getting to know everybody, so that when the time comes that I have to make an ask for them to trust me, I can ask somebody on a personal level and be like, hey man, you know, I know we've been trying, like this has been on and off for a little while now, but you know, I've got a mandate from the CEO to get this thing back up and running, and this is how I want to do it. I want to do it with you. I want to do this so that we all get better together.
All right. Our next question is for Josh. You said Pindel built this FAI workflow themselves on top of MachineMetrics, and the native version is coming. What other things are customers building on the platform right now that you're learning from?
Yeah, so building on top of the platform right now, like Thomas was talking about at the production lab, we had quite a few different customers asking a bunch of different, or wanting a bunch of different things. One of them was what they call as a stacker tracker, which was the company uses a stacking of setups in order to make sure that the machine runs longer. So they were able to actually create a new almost schedule that was matching what jobs use the same tooling. In their case, the wheel packs, grinding wheel packs, where they were able to actually match up the jobs that are next up, so that they could stack all of those together, do the setups all at one time, cut down on the setup time of all the individual jobs, and have the machine run overnight for 12 hours without the operator having to be there, and planning ahead. Other things that we've saw, using our new shift handover, they're able to actually access handover notes by operator that are utilized for actually bringing up at the time of job start, right? So when a new job starts up that maybe was ran 2 months ago, we bring up that new those old notes that might have been left by the operator to actually inform maybe a new operator that look out for tool 5. It runs a little heavy. You need to make sure you back it off, or make sure that you change out tool 16 every 25 parts, because it tends to break after 20. Those notes are really important. The knowledge sharing is really important. So they were able to benefit from capturing that information and putting it into the product, and that's something that we want to build on top of as well.
All right, we're going to go back to Thomas. What's still not working at Pindel that you're hoping to figure out in the next 12 months?
Well, one of the big ones is that what's up next kind of tracker. I wouldn't say that's not in full production yet, so definitely hoping to expand our usage of that. The other thing is, I mentioned the engineering review cadence. I really want to keep driving our usage of that, because it's been so powerful already thus far. And yeah, I think that's one of our biggest opportunities to move the needle business wide. If we can systematize that and make that kind of even culturally a part of how we approach our work, it's going to be huge. And I think, like I was kind of explaining, I think that's going to be a combination of Max AI pointing us in the right direction, and then it's going to be obviously applying the engineering expertise that we have here in house. And then honestly, I didn't mention this, but the way that we're using other AI platforms too. I'm not gonna give away too much secret sauce here, but that wrapping that into these engineering reviews has been very powerful. So those are initiatives that are going to be real value drivers for us.
Thank you, Thomas. We have one more question here. So if anybody has anything else they would like to ask, please make sure to get that in as soon as possible. But for now, we'll go back to Josh. For shops that aren't quite at Pindel's level of maturity yet, where does MachineMetrics actually start? What's the entry point that makes sense for someone earlier on this journey?
Yeah, that's a great question. So where MachineMetrics actually starts with those kinds of those maturity levels, right? We start with that real approach to connecting your machines, getting machine data in, understanding what's actually happening on the shop floor, getting a baseline of the shop floor of your machinery, and then connecting your ERP can happen literally simultaneously as you get that context layer. It adds even more benefit to what exactly is happening on the shop floor, right? So those are like the first steps that we'll take, and then we really drive exactly what your plan is for your maturity level, for your shop floor, by finding these different gaps that are in your execution, right? So as we use the machine data, we are finding more places for us to point that flashlight and actually be able to shed light on those and create actions alongside you.
All right, it looks like that's all we have for today. I want to thank Josh, Thomas, and MachineMetrics for making this webinar possible, and thank you to everybody for listening in. You should receive an email with a link to the recording soon. Thank you for your time and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, everybody.